Hello and welcome to our third webinar in our series. This will be Meeting People Where They Are, Tailored Outreach for Tobacco Prevention and Cessation. My name is Gabrielle Cochran and I'm the Program Coordinator for Empower, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Today I'm also joined by Griffin. Griffin, do you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Griffin Nemeth and I'm the Youth Advisory Board Coordinator for #IconInTheTrend at UK.
Okay. So this webinar will be part of a three-part series, and our purpose is to share best practices in tobacco prevention and cessation for organizations as we work with the community. We also want to be sharing lessons learned with working in the community and highlight successes from Empower and #IconInTheTrend and our approaches. We know that there's a need for tailored programming, and we want to offer the practical tools for taking action on these. So a little bit about our program. Empower is a CDC-funded initiative that focuses on preventing tobacco initiation and supporting cessation. We focus specifically on menthol and other flavored tobacco products. We serve underserved communities in Lexington and Louisville.
Icon in the Trend really focuses on the prevention piece, and our peer-to-peer model allows us to send our college-age students into classrooms to educate younger students about the harms of tobacco use and to give them that informed decision to make sure that they don't start using. We'll talk later in the webinar today also about our youth-led advocacy program, our youth advisory board, and how they're also shaping tobacco prevention for their peers.
As you may have seen in our first webinar, Kentucky has a unique tobacco landscape. We're one of the top 5 states in terms of adult smoking rates. We also have rates of tobacco use of all kinds at higher than the national average. We also know that due to the targeting of the industry, some other external factors, that Black individuals have rates of menthol cigarette use that are higher than all other race or ethnicity categories. Youth also remain impacted by menthol use. In our second webinar, we discussed how people want to quit. We know that 67.7% of adults who use tobacco products want to quit, and 65.3% of youth who use any tobacco product want to quit. We also know that only 1 in 3 adults actually use evidence-based cessation methods, which can make it harder to have a successful quit attempt. Menthol, too, can make it more challenging to quit. And so we do have 2 different resources highlighted here. We'll have more along the way. But Quit Now Kentucky is a great cessation resource for adults in Kentucky. And My Life, My Quit is for youth 18 and younger. It's a texting-based service.
Tailored outreach matters because as we do outreach in the communities, the tobacco industry is also leading targeted marketing in communities with more residents of color. Menthol and flavored tobacco products are advertised more, have more active discounts, coupons, and promotions, and overall lower prices. So we know that the tobacco industry is targeting communities with marketing and with flavors. And so our programming also needs to be tailored to counteract the marketing that is taking place. In looking at tailored programming, this is an approach that centers the needs and priorities of our audience through continuing to modify the program based on the feedback that we're getting from community members. We want our approaches to be responsive to the needs that we're seeing and hearing from our community members.
So as we look to tailor outreach, we want to keep in mind 4 key pieces. We want to remember youth and make sure that we're including them in our outreach and our programming and really putting them in a space where they can be leaders and take control of the work that we're doing. We want to make sure that we're working with local community leaders because at the end of the day, the community are the experts on the community. And I know a lot of things that we may not know going in as we do programming and leading the work. We also want to make sure that we're building trust. So if we say we're going to do something, we need to do it. And we also know that we want to take the time to build relationships and then honor those relationships as we work in the community. We want to also be mindful about who is included in our spaces. So not just youth, but making sure that our champions, our local community leaders are really representing the community that we're serving. Now, The Icon in the Trend Youth Advisory Board is a great example of how tailored outreach can make an impact.
To give everyone a little bit more context, our Youth Advisor Board is a year-long leadership and mentorship program for high school students across Kentucky. And I'm thankful that we're able to bring them in because we can really recognize them as those local community leaders. In the way that we remember youth, we try and keep our engagement authentic, and we really do that through making sure that they have a critical understanding of how the tobacco industry is targeting them and their peers, and then giving them that platform to advocate on behalf of their peers to make a difference and reduce use among students their age. And so our youth advisor board gets out into their community to promote tobacco prevention through presentations or education, but we also bring them at the state level and have them work with our legislators, have them work with our statewide partners to really talk about what the tobacco industry is doing and how we can make changes in the policy arena.
One example of how we've been able to work with our community with Empower is through our youth boot camp. We have a team of youth champions who go out into the community and help us with our prevention efforts, help us create educational programming and materials. And so for our youth boot camp, our youth coach talked with our youth and asked what they would like to learn more about, what skills would help them feel more confident in reaching out to policymakers or community members. And they really helped us build the program. So that way, the education and skills were tailored to their needs. We also have been working on a quit kit. And so in developing the quit kit, we worked with the community to develop not only the idea for having that tangible resource, but also the items that were included in the kit, and the tailored quit line card that is featured on the slide. We had our champions help us pick the logo, the brand colors, and the design pattern that was on the card. The intention of having these quit kits be tailored to the community, and therefore being more helpful. Another piece you can see highlighted there is that there is minty gum in toothpicks because we know in the communities that we serve, menthol is the preferred flavor for the majority of people. So that can help specifically with cravings related to menthol tobacco products. I know Icon in the Trend is also working on developing a quick kit.
Absolutely. So in November, the American Cancer Society is going to host their Great American Smokeout. And so we want to really take an approach on the Icon and the Trend prevention side this year and distribute quick kits that are oriented to youth. And so similar to how Empower has distributed quick kits across the community oriented toward adults, we wanted to again take that youth-focused approach and put items in there that we know youth might respond to that might help them in their cessation journey. And so we're going to be publishing information that on our Icon and the Trend social media over the coming month leading up to the Great American Smokeout.
So when it comes to tobacco prevention and cessation, what we say and how we say it matters. Responsive messaging means listening first, then shaping communication that speaks directly to the lived experience of the community. We've seen that engagement rises when people feel seen and heard. This means using language that reflects local values, culture, and concerns, not just health statistics. Effective messaging doesn't preach, it connects. Education is one of our most powerful tools, but it must be responsive and relevant. People, especially youth, are constantly being exposed to misinformation, particularly around flavored tobacco. Our job is to counter that misinformation with truth in a way that resonates. For example, as we look to how Icon in the Trend engages youth, Griffin has an example of how that can work.
Here's where Icon and the Trend can really make their difference, and that's through our school presentations. We know that youth understand what's going on among their peers, in their schools, and in their communities. And like Gabrielle said, it's our job to take the misinformation that the tobacco industry gives them and then fight it with our own truthful information. We know that among tobacco industry targeting, peer pressure is also a really strong way that youth are influenced to use tobacco products. And so in our presentations, not only do we expose them to how the industry is targeting them through flavors, social media, or other methods, but we also talk about how to resist peer pressures, ways to say no that don't put youth in the awkward position that we know that they might be in, or that we have been when we were their age. So our presentation really isn't a just say no. It's not Nancy Reagan's campaign that failed to reduce drug use among youth. It is really just giving them that informed decision so they can decide whether using tobacco product is the right choice for their healthy lifestyle.
Another key piece of this is partnerships. So tobacco prevention doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens through relationships. Trusted messengers like teachers, faith leaders, barbers, grassroots organizers, and family members are key to delivering prevention messages in ways that stick. When a coach, a parent, or a barber speaks up about tobacco, it lands differently. These networks don't just deliver messages, they reinforce and amplify them. So if you're working in this space, ask yourself, who already has the trust of the people we're trying to reach? Partner with them. People are more likely to listen and respond when they hear voices that sound like their own. When communities see themselves reflected in campaigns, in leadership, and stories, they lean in, they engage, they reflect. This is why lifting up local voices, especially youth and adult champions, is critical. Whether it's through a video, a spoken word piece, a school event, or a church program, community voice makes prevention real. So as you can see in the top of the slide, one of the ways our youth have engaged in the community is through speaking with their policymakers. Griffin, can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
On the other side of Icon and the Trend with our Youth Advisory Board, not only are they doing any of our prevention programming or our presentations and education among their peers, but they're also collaborating with their peers to go and talk to our policymakers, our elected officials, and really drive change that is right by them and right by our communities. And so in 2024 and in 2025, we brought a cumulative of over 350 youth advocates to the state capitol really just to talk with their elected officials about what they're seeing in their schools and communities and to ask that they recognize that change needs to be made because the tobacco industry is targeting them. And then youth really want to take a stand and make that difference for their peers. And so thankfully, they've been successful in communicating that importance to our lawmakers. And we're hoping to see positive change enter Kentucky's tobacco control field soon.
So what can we all do starting today? First, we can listen to our community. Their insights are the blueprint. We also want to use trusted messengers. Who do people already believe in? Bring them into this work. We want to encourage youth and adult champions to share their stories and speak their truths. We want to be connecting and collaborating with others doing the work, because this is not a solo mission, it's a community movement. And as Griffin shared, another way we can get involved is by having Icon and the Trend come do presentations for schools or after school programs. Together, we can build a future where tobacco no longer has a hold on our families, our youth, or our neighborhoods. Let's keep showing up, let's keep speaking up, and most of all, let's do it together. As mentioned before, we have 4 resources here that we want to provide you. So that Quit Now Kentucky link, which is great for adults to call. It is free and can provide access to nicotine replacement therapy at free or reduced cost. The My Life, My Quit is great for youth, those 17 and under. And they do have coaches trained to help adolescents, either through text or some online services. And we also have SAMHSA here for mental health and substance use, since we know that that can be a risk factor for tobacco use. And then if you'd like to use our Empower Quick Kits that are located in Lexington or Louisville, go ahead and give us an email at empowerky@uky.edu. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this brief webinar today. Please visit our Prevent website to access resources or follow us on social media to stay connected. If you'd like any of those printed materials or quick kits, again, don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is on this slide. And please also watch our first 2 webinars if you haven't already to learn more about the tobacco landscape and how to support someone on their quit journey. Together, we can build a healthier Kentucky, one conversation, one connection at a time.